The wedding humiliation, 700 words. The invitation came in a gold envelope with embossed lettering and an overly sweet scent of jasmine. Amelia Reyes stared at it for a long time before she finally opened. You are cordially invited to the wedding of Nathan, Hale and Celine Ward. The name hit her chest like a faint echo of a wound long healed but not forgotten. Nathan Hale, the man who once swore he'd marry her someday. The man who later laughed at her dreams that didn't make money. She thought she'd buried that version of herself years ago. The naive girl who believed in him. But the world, it seemed, loved digging up the past. She almost threw the invitation away. Almost. Instead, she placed it neatly back into the envelope, looked out her apartment window over the city skyline she'd helped design, and whispered, "Why not?" The wedding was exactly what she expected. Loud, extravagant, and painfully shallow. Guests glittered in designer dresses and diamond smiles while photographers swarmed like bees. Amelia stood quietly near the back, wearing a simple navy gown, understated, elegant, completely unlike the crowd. She hadn't come to make a statement. She just wanted to see him once. Just to make sure the man who once broke her heart was real and not a shadow she'd made up in her loneliest nights. And then she saw him, Nathan Hale, still handsome, still carrying that same confident smirk, but something in his eyes looked emptier. Maybe it was success. Maybe it was everything he'd traded for it. Their eyes met across the room. For a second, the laughter and music seemed to fade. He blinked, recognition flickering, then amusement. "Amelia?" he said, as if tasting the name like an old flavor he'd forgotten existed. "I didn't expect you here." "I didn't expect the invitation either," she said softly. Must have been my assistant's mistake." He chuckled, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Then louder, "We used to date in college, can you believe that?" She wanted to build skyscrapers. I wanted to buy them. I guess we both got what we deserved, huh? The laughter that followed was cruel and sharp. Someone clinked a glass. Even Celine smirked faintly, looping her arm through his. Amelia's lips didn't tremble. Her eyes didn't drop. Instead, she smiled, small, calm, and devastatingly composed. "Yes," she said. "We did." For a heartbeat, Nathan looked uncertain, as if her stillness unnerved him. But then he shrugged it off, turning back to his glittering crowd. Amelia stayed only a little longer. She left before the first dance, walking out into the night, heels clicking against marble. In the back of her car, her assistant, Jason, asked quietly, "You sure that was a good idea, boss?" She glanced at the contract folder on her lap, the one stamped with the words Hale Industries Redevelopment Proposal. Then she looked out the window where fireworks bloomed over the wedding hall like dying stars. "Oh, it was a great idea," she said softly. "He just doesn't know it yet." The secret revealed 700 words. The morning after the wedding, the city woke to headlines about the wedding of the year. Nathan Hale's smiling face was everywhere. Magazines, business blogs, and social media posts celebrating his marriage to Celine Ward. But in the quiet corner office of Reyes and Nolan Architects, Amelia scrolled past it all. Her attention was on something else. The contract folder lying open on her glass desk, the one stamped Hale Industries Redevelopment Project. Jason, her assistant, stood near the window. "So, that's the same Nathan Hale?" Amelia nodded without looking up. "The very same," Jason whistled low. "And he has no idea you're the one leading this deal?" She finally looked up, eyes calm but sharp. "He will, soon enough." Hale Industries had recently announced an ambitious project, a massive eco-commercial complex meant to restore Nathan's reputation after a series of poor investments. His board needed a design firm that could execute something groundbreaking, and the top choice on their list had been Reyes and Nolan. The irony wasn't lost on Amelia. When the proposal first landed on her desk, she almost rejected it out of instinct. But instead, she'd studied every page and decided it would be poetic to let the past come knocking, and opened the door with a smile. 2 days later, the boardroom of Hale Industries buzzed with tension. The CEO, Nathan Hale, stood at the head of a long, polished table, adjusting his cufflinks as his assistant whispered updates. "Sir, the architects from Reyes and Nolan are here." "Good. Let's get this deal moving," Nathan said, straightening his tie. When the door opened, conversation in the room quieted. Amelia entered with the calm confidence of someone who didn't need to prove anything. She wore a tailored charcoal suit, her hair pinned up neatly, her expression unreadable. For a moment, Nathan didn't recognize her. Then his breath caught. "You," he said quietly. "Good morning, Mr. Hale," Amelia replied, taking a seat opposite him. "We're here to present the final structural concept for your redevelopment project." The board members looked between them, sensing an undercurrent they couldn't quite place. As the presentation began, Amelia spoke with precision and grace, detailing sustainable materials, architectural flow, and long-term scalability. Every sentence revealed how much she'd grown, how far she'd come from the girl who once waited outside his dorm for hours with blueprints and coffee. Nathan tried to focus, but her composure rattled him. The woman across from him wasn't the shy student he'd mocked at his wedding. She was a leader, powerful, articulate, and entirely in control. When the presentation ended, the room filled with applause. Even the usually cold board chairman murmured, "Impressive." Nathan cleared his throat. "Excellent work, Miss Reyes." His tone wavered slightly on her name. "I'll review the documents and get back to you." Amelia smiled faintly. "Of course. I look forward to hearing from you." After the meeting, he caught her by the elevator. "Amelia, wait!" She turned, her expression polite but distant. "Look, about the wedding." She raised a hand gently. "You don't have to explain, Nathan." "I do," he said quickly. "That joke, it wasn't meant to hurt you, it just slipped." "Of course," she said, her voice calm as still water. "Insults often do." He exhaled sharply. "You're angry." "Not anymore," she said simply. "But I will admit, it's satisfying to know the man who once told me I'd never make it past drawing blueprints now wants to sign a deal with my company." Her words struck him harder than he expected. For once, he didn't have a clever response. As the elevator doors slid open, Amelia stepped inside. Before they closed, she met his eyes and said quietly, "Success isn't always loud, Nathan. Sometimes it arrives in silence, and it remembers." The doors shut, leaving him standing alone with his reflection. That evening at home, Celine noticed Nathan staring at his drink longer than usual. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing," he muttered, but she caught the flicker of guilt in his eyes. "It's her, isn't it? The woman at your meeting." He looked up sharply. "Celine, she looked at you like she'd already won," Celine said bitterly. "And maybe she has." Nathan didn't answer, because deep down he knew she was right. Amelia Reyes wasn't just a reminder of his past. She was living proof that the one he'd broken had rebuilt herself. Higher, strong the reckoning, 700 words. A month passed since the first meeting between Amelia Reyes and Nathan Hale, but neither had stopped thinking about the other. For Nathan, it was a gnawing unease, a haunting reminder of the woman he'd humiliated. For Amelia, it was quiet anticipation. Every move she made was deliberate, every decision woven into a larger plan. Her company, Reyes and Nolan Architects, had officially secured the redevelopment contract for Hale Industries, a project worth millions. Nathan's board had insisted she was the best, and Nathan, though reluctant, had agreed. He couldn't deny her brilliance, but he had no idea that Amelia had already started something far beyond architecture. It began with a single document, a land purchase agreement buried inside Hale Industries' old files, one that revealed Nathan had bought property using insider information, exploiting loopholes in people's lives to climb the ladder. Amelia discovered it while reviewing project zoning maps. She could have ignored it, but she didn't. Instead, she passed the information, quietly, anonymously, to a journalist named Leo Turner, who happened to owe her a favor. "Give it a few weeks," she said on the phone. "Let the truth breathe before it burns." Leo chuckled softly. "You've changed, Amelia." "No," she replied, her voice cool and calm. "I've learned how to fight." Meanwhile, Nathan's empire began to crack. Rumors spread across the business world, whispers about fraudulent investments and unregistered assets. Clients started backing out, and the media grew hungry for scandal. One afternoon, during a tense board meeting, his legal advisor slammed a folder on the table. "This," she said, her voice sharp, "is from the Herald. They're publishing an exposé tomorrow." Nathan's face drained of color. "What exposé?" She looked at him with something like pity. "Yours." That night, Nathan sat in his study, scrolling through old photographs of him and Amelia years ago, smiling beside her final year project model. He'd been so sure he was above her then, so sure she was just another dreamer with no power to hurt him. Now she was everywhere, on TV, in newspapers, on business panels, speaking about innovation and ethics. Reporters called her the woman redefining modern architecture, and he, the man who mocked her dreams, was now the subject of an investigation. The final blow came at a charity gala. Hale Industries had sponsored it months earlier, back when Nathan's reputation was still golden. Cameras flashed. The letter he never sent, 700 words. It had been 3 months since Nathan Hale's fall from grace. His empire was gone, his name stained, and his so-called friends, the same ones who had cheered his success, no longer returned his calls. He had moved into a quiet villa outside Florence, Italy, surrounded by vineyards and silence. The once proud millionaire now lived alone with his regrets. Each morning, Nathan sat by the balcony overlooking the hills, holding an old photograph. Amelia smiling beside him during their university days. Her laughter seemed to echo through his memory, taunting him gently. He began to write a letter. Amelia, I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness, but every night I replay the moment I humiliated you, at the wedding, at the firm, at every turn of your life. I thought success meant power. You taught me it meant peace. I only wish I'd learned sooner. Nathan. He folded the letter neatly and placed it in an envelope. But he never sent it. Instead, he tucked it inside his journal and closed it, as though closing the last chapter of the man he used to be. Meanwhile, Amelia's life continued to bloom. Reyes and Nolan Architects had become one of the top firms in the country, with offices in London, Singapore, and New York. She had everything she once dreamed of: power, recognition, respect. Yet sometimes, when the applause faded and her office grew quiet, she felt a strange emptiness, not longing but reflection. She wondered if vengeance had truly brought her peace, or if she had simply covered her pain with success. One night, while attending a charity dinner in London, Amelia saw a familiar face among the crowd: Nathan's mother. Mrs. Hale, her hair grayer, her smile soft. The older woman approached her gently. You've become everything he said you couldn't, she said. Amelia blinked. He talked about me. Mrs. Hale nodded. Every letter he writes starts with your name. He regrets everything. Amelia hesitated, her composure faltering. Does he still live in the city? No, Mrs. Hale said. He left. Somewhere far to start again. That night, Amelia couldn't sleep. For the first time in years, her thoughts weren't about revenge or victory. They were about closure, she realized. Maybe it was time to forgive, not for him, but for herself. Part 5, The Silence After the Storm, 700 words. A year later, Amelia traveled to Florence for a conference on sustainable architecture. It was purely professional, or so she told herself. But deep down, she knew she wanted to see him one last time. After the conference, she asked her driver to take a detour through the countryside. The golden fields stretched endlessly, and the air carried the faint scent of grapes and sun-warmed earth. Then she saw it, a small villa at the edge of a hill, its windows open to the light. She recognized it from a picture Mrs. Hale had shown her. Nathan was there, sitting at a table in the garden, sketching quietly. The confident man she once knew was gone, replaced by someone simpler, humbler, peaceful. When he looked up and saw her, his pencil froze. Amelia. He breathed for a long moment, neither spoke. The air was heavy with everything unsaid. She finally smiled faintly. You look different, he chuckled softly. I think I finally learned how to live without applause. They sat across from each other as the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in gold. Nathan handed her something, a worn envelope. I wrote this a year ago. I didn't think I'd ever see you again. She opened it slowly and read the letter he had once hidden. His words trembled with regret, honesty, and sorrow. By the time she finished, her eyes glistened. I'm not the same woman you hurt, she said quietly. But I'm also not the woman who hated you anymore. He nodded, relief softening his face. That's more mercy than I deserve. Amelia stood, brushing a tear from her cheek. Maybe, but we both deserve to heal. She extended her hand. He took it gently, not as lovers, but as two people who had finally made peace with their past. As she walked away down the sunlit road, Nathan watched her go, not with regret this time, but with gratitude. In her absence, he had found humility. In her forgiveness, he found peace. And for Amelia, the sound of the wind through the fields felt like a quiet promise that moving on wasn't forgetting. It was freeing herself,